Hello and welcome to Pink Boys Have a Podcast. Today I am joined by fellow Pink Boys, Matthew Hogley.
Hi.
And Devon Sampson.
Hey.
As you can see, our fellow Pink Boy Raymond, unfortunately could not join us. Bless his soul. But
Raymond, we love you if you're out there. Luke is just bitter.
I'm not bitter. Not at all. So today we're going to be going over cast assessment for Survivor Canada Season 5. And we're going to be doing it Devon style. So we're going to have cards in the play, as always.
God. So yeah, basically we're going to do a snake draft so that it's not unfair and the same person gets the top pick in each round. There's 16 contestants in this season. So we'll be drafting, the three of us will each be drafting teams of 5. Thus there'll be one person left out. And we don't know who that will be yet. Who that person will be.
Not at all.
No. So we have 3 cards here, the ace, the 3, and the 2. I'm going to give this a quick shuffle. I'll let Luke pick one of the cards.
Alrighty.
The ace will be the first overall pick. Matty can pick the other one. All right. So.
Reveal.
Damn it. Oh, so perfect
order.
order. So you have the ace.
I got 2.
He has the 2, and I have the 3. So Luke will have the first overall pick in this draft. Also, before we continue, are we gonna have money on this? Is there gonna be $5 on the line, or is this will just be
This will be $5 on the line.
You good with that, Matty?
Yeah.
$5, or do you want to just have it for fun?
Well, I don't have any cash on me.
I'll spawn Matty.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got you.
Good. This will be even more satisfying when I win. Okay, so I'll take the cards. There, so that works out for the cameras. We don't have to move around. Luke now has the first overall pick. I have a cheat sheet of the players here that we might be referencing. Luke, if you want it.
Oh, of course.
I'll be recording the picks in this book. But this is also obviously a vehicle for us to talk about the players in this game. As the player's chosen, we'll each talk about that player and talk about what we each think their chances are in this game. Which is going to be, I think we all think, a really cutthroat game and one of the more, in terms of the quality of the contestants on this season, one of the highest quality seasons.
Totally agree.
One of the most competitive seasons.
Bloodbath, for sure.
There's ever going to be. So with that, with the first overall pick in the Survivor Deus Ex Machina draft, I give it to Luke.
Survivor Luke will choose my brother Nolan Easton as
Oh no!
as the first pick. All right, Nolan Easton. He's a returning player. I played with him last season, as we all did. Nolan Easton is a very confident individual. He's an alpha male.
Are you serious? Are you serious? Are you actually picking Nolan number 1, Luke? Oh man,
it's like number 1 to
Please continue. I want to hear why.
He makes it a priority to let it be known that he is an alpha male.
That is true.
But he does hide that from the other contestants, as you can see by the many confessionals saying how the alpha males on the tribe are a threat to him and he wants to get them out. And so I feel like his vendetta against alpha males is going to be a hindrance to his game. However, if he can keep that secret and if he can choose who he targets and appoints as an alpha male, I think he'll go really far. What do you guys think?
Oh man, Nolan. Matty, your thought? Do you have any thoughts on Nolan? We played.
Well, I didn't get a chance to play with Nolan because we're on different tribes, but he seems really confident with himself. Like he, even in some of his confessionals, we say, "Yeah, I'm the alpha male." I think he's in trouble. I think at the beginning of the game because I think he's one of those players who kind of plays too hard too soon. And if it wasn't for that family emergency, I think he probably would have been voted out that episode.
Yeah. I totally agree with Matty here. I think it's a very questionable first pick by Luke, but basically, there's a term in poker called fancy play syndrome, where you just make a complicated, complex move for its own sake. And it's a thing that beginning players do. I think Nolan did the Survivor version of that. And, like, to be fair, I kind of did too. But, like, I think Nolan was an extreme example of that. I didn't see any reason why his alliance and relationship with Austin had to fracture. But you saw Nolan just get paranoid out of nowhere. At least by the edit, to be fair, which doesn't show everything. But
right.
There was, I think, a lot of fancy play syndrome on Nolan's part. And I think it will continue. So some inside baseball that I'm just going to reveal to our gentle viewer here is that he was doing a lot of pre-gaming. He was messaging a lot of people from our season to see if they'd be returning. He's playing really hard in the pregame, and so I don't think that he's learned his lesson from the previous time.
He did say, and this I've heard from people, that he does have a master plan. And,
oh, that's right.
It's going into effect. And
Yeah,
he did say that his strategy will be drastically changing from the last time. And
Yeah.
so I'm curious to see like what he can add.
that is actually true. Nolan did say that he has a master plan, so I actually agree. Then he should have been. I would have picked him number 1 too. That's fair.
Thank you, Devin.
Makes
Thank you.
sense.
Yeah.
All right, so we turn to Matty. Second.
I guess we should say if you think they're gonna be.
Pre-merge.
pre-jury.
So I mean, you think he's the winner then? If he's your first pick, I guess, Luke.
Mhm.
You think he's the winner of the seasons?
Is that what we're doing? We're gonna do.
Do you think he's the winner?
Uh,
You picked him first. He has a master plan.
is a master plan, but can you win the jury over?
I have him as pre-merge. I think he's like probably the most likely person on this cast to be pre-merge. Matty, do you think he's going to be pre-merge, merge, winner? Where do you see him landing?
I think he may go a little bit further in the pre-merge, but I would say just before they merge, that's when he gets voted out. So I'm going to say late pre-merge.
Yeah. He could
Okay.
also be the merge. He's also like
Yeah.
in a way like a merge,
A merge boot, an
Yeah.
alpha male, which usually gets targeted at the merge.
Yeah.
So
Oh, God.
it makes sense.
Oh man, we love you, Nolan. We love you.
We do love you.
Especially if we're on All Stars together someday, if our Survivor paths cross again.
Yeah, don't be mad, please.
All right, very bold pick by Luke. First overall. Matty is the second overall pick in this draft.
Okay.
The floor is yours. Who do you select?
Okay, for my second pick, this is really cutthroat. It's kind of hard to pick one, but I'm going to go on a limb here, and this may be an unpopular pick to some people, but he kind of grew on me in his previous season. But I'm picking Tyler.
Ooh.
And the reason why is because Tyler, he is a really like a villain in a iconic way. So I think you remember back in his previous season where he played his idol to get rid of Rommel because Rommel was being really wishy-washy towards him. Once Tyler's the type of person.
That's a great move.
Yeah, I think Tyler's the type of person. If he makes an alliance with you, that means he wants to work with you. But once he senses that he can't trust you, then he instantly will turn you. Like for instance, remember that Brett guy? He made up this lie to his other tribe that he was throwing I think Jenny under the bus, and the combination of his strategic and social game, I think, will make him go far. But there's also a con to it because there may be some people on this season who may have watched this season. They may target him based on his legendary status, if you will. But if Tyler has new tricks up his sleeve, if he doesn't play the same way, like if he comes up with a new hand of tricks, with a brand new ace up both of his sleeves, I think he'd be a really dangerous player to try to get rid of, because if you try to get rid of him, he'll instantly cut your throat once he senses that you're trying to get rid of him.
Yeah, you make a good point in that it's a skill in itself to have that conviction, just to like when someone crosses you and that someone is a threat to you, to immediately pull the trigger on them and not be wishy-washy and not hesitate. Like Tyler goes for the jugular if he senses weakness. Certainly, I think he does have to have some new tricks up his sleeve. I think if he pulls the lie that he has a son, I don't think they're going to believe him again this time.
I think the son thing he shouldn't pull again. He should try a daughter maybe or something.
Yeah,
like
actually,
that.
a daughter would be that would
more
go
neutral. And I definitely don't think he should throw any challenges.
So you don't want him to do the intentional Matt Singh?
No, don't do the intentional Matt Singh, please. That won't work out very good.
Why won't it work in this season?
Because I think, well, first of all, we have returnee players. I mean, other Survivor Canada seasons have also had returnee players. However, almost everybody on this cast has played Survivor before.
You love Survivor Canada returning players on your season. I've heard.
Oh, yeah. The best.
They're all your favorite
I'm
right here.
a huge fan.
Oh God, yeah, no. Tyler is at this point in time at the conclusion of season 4. I think Tyler's the undisputed best player in the history of this series. Survivor Canada, Survivor British Columbia, Survivor Gyra. This series,
Just Survivor everything, pretty much.
He played a great game. I think that.
Sorry, Wendell.
Damn, that's bold. That's bold. I mean, I don't know why you picked Nolan ahead. I guess it's praise for Nolan that he's picked number 1 ahead of him. But damn, no, Tyler's an excellent player. He's probably that winning game that he played in season 3 is one of the best winning games I think that's been played in Survivor. In a sense, it was easy because he was playing with people that weren't as experienced in Survivor. So I think that he had a good chance to make it far in the game no matter what. But I was talking to Luke earlier about this. I think the fact that he won is so impressive because that season was basically all people that were different than him, like demographically. He was like a tall, male, skinny Caucasian, atheist, and a lot of the people on his cast are like female, Filipino, Christian girls and all that. And just to win over like that demographic, it shows how good he is like socially. He didn't make any strategic mistakes. He did some strategic things very well. He made a bold move at the end. The funny thing is that when you have a winner, the last thing I'll say on Tyler is that when you have a winner go into a season, it's almost like they have like everything to lose and not much to gain. I think that this is the opposite for Tyler here. I think that if Tyler doesn't do well, he has a reputation. You can just say, oh, he had a reputation. He was tough competition. It just wasn't meant to be. But if Tyler wins this season or makes it really far,
he's an absolute legend.
He's a legend
at that point.
Like, are we positive that Kim Spradlin is better than him if he wins this season? Like, it would be extremely impressive. And I think that he's capable enough to do it. If my life was on the line and I'd have Tyler win a season of Survivor for me to stay alive, I'd like my chances. So I think that's a good pick.
Yeah.
I think that Tyler is good enough. I think that he'll make the jury. I think that he'll make the jury. I think he'll get past the pre-merge portion of the game because I think a lot of other people will make mistakes and play the game too hard, and that's not going to be Tyler's downfall ever. I think he's socially calibrated enough that he won't overplay and just be seen as a target like that.
Yeah,
I have faith in him not to pull a Nolan. No offense to your first overall pick.
Oh, no offense taken, of course. I speak for Nolan on his behalf.
What do you think, Luke?
I think he'll make merge for sure. The question is whether he'll be late merge or early merge. And I'm going to have to lean towards late merge. I think Tyler at the merge isn't a typical merge boot, first of all, even though he's a strategist. But so is everybody else on this cast. I think he'll make it farther and he'll find a way to maneuver around so that there's always another target ahead of him. Because there are big targets out here.
Yeah.
Aside from me, of course.
So with the third overall pick in the draft, I'm going to go a little bit off the board, but not totally. In the same vein as Matty picked a really legendary returning player from the Survivor Canada series, the third overall pick in this draft, and my first pick, is Regan Strutt from the first season of Survivor Canada. I think that Regan, I think we can all agree is one of the best players also in the history of this series. I have her at number 2, and a lot of people do as well. I think Tyler himself has Regan at number 2.
She's the best female player to play.
Yeah, the best female
Jessica,
player.
But, yeah, sorry.
No offense, Jessica. I have Regan as number 2 all time, and certainly the number 1 female player to play this game. And I think that if this was like season 2, she would be a huge threat. But because enough seasons have passed, and at one point Gyra had season 1 as like private. I don't know if he still does. Like, I think a lot of people in this season, despite being fans of live reality games, aren't actually going to be that familiar with Regan and see her as the threat that she is, because she's a badass. She showed in the first season that she can overcome adversity. Like, she swapped into a bad situation. And normally that's just a valid excuse for losing the game. Oh, I got a bad swap and I was in this majority alliance was there against me. But she turned the tables in that situation and had a bunch of guys that were otherwise inclined to work together and flip the situation so that they turned on themselves. And then she picked them off at the merge. It was cutthroat and brilliant. And she, with her ability to persuade Monica in the post-merge, and just the way that even though she was making moves and in that alliance, that she would have won over Franny, I think, pretty easily. Fly around my ear. She's just she's a triple threat. I like her in competitions. I have high hopes for her, and I just can easily see her being the winner and flying under the radar and then just destroying everyone post-merge. I really think she's going to run laps around a lot of these people that are coming into the game thinking they're badasses at Survivor. I think she's going to show them who the real badass is here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when it comes to placement, I would put her as late merge.
I'm going to actually put her in the final 3.
Ooh.
Because
Thank you, Matty.
this is, I think, for me, like, coming into clean hands with her, because, and people may not know too much about how she played, or may not even watched the first season, because even it's still private at all. So I think I'm going to put her final 3 for Regan.
And the last thing I'll add before moving on to so I have the next pick because it's a snake draft. The last thing I'll add about Regan as well is that she's unknown because even if she was this exact same person she was in season 1, that she'd be still kind of an unknown quantity to the other players because they haven't probably seen her season. But of course, that was filmed in 2012. It's 2018. 6 years have passed, so she's more mature. She's probably a more complex and I think even more socially adept person now than she was back then.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that she'll be an especially unknown quantity and someone that's good. Now, going from unknown quantities to someone that it does have the recency bias and someone that is going to be on people's radar, my number 4 pick is another returning player. I have Amos from Season 4 Battle of BC, the runner-up, as my number 4 overall pick in the draft. Basically, I didn't vote for Amos at the final tribal council. I had voted for Jessica instead, and the reason I did is because I didn't think that Amos owned his game at the end. He basically gave the Troyzan speech in his opening statement about how he's like, I know that Raymond or Jessica is going to win, and I took that as like a quit. I really didn't like they made that statement, and he also didn't reveal facts to the jury, like the fact that he found the idol that Jessica played to get Natasha out at the final 7. He never mentioned that to the jury, even though that was something that he had over Jessica as a good argument. And I hope that he can remedy that mistake. But besides that, what mistakes did Amos really make? I think that he played a really great game. And back in this theme of overcoming adversity, he was a target pretty much the entire post-merge. And he was able to maneuver extremely skillfully through the game, despite having a huge target. Like that season was not set up great for Amos to do well, being a minority, being an American, and having the other players eventually figure out that he was friends with Craig and Jessica. Like it's not like he's just there with all his friends like Cochran and Caramoan. Like that's almost the opposite situation, and yet he still made the end and almost won. So I think that's impressive, and I think that he has an edge over the other people in this game that host their own Survivor shows. Because he can be cool, calm, and collected. And I think the other people might overplay their hand and maybe pull a Nolan too much. And I don't think that
I'm taking offense to this right now.
And I don't think that Amos is ever in danger of pulling a Nolan. So I feel good about him as number 4. What do you guys think about Amos?
Amos to me is the man who made the fewest mistakes in the season. He might not be the player that was always upfront with what he did, and the jury definitely did not hear that from him at the final tribal. However, I do think that his game was not necessarily flawless, but it worked in a way that kept him alive vote after vote when he was a huge target, like Devon said. And so I have high hopes for Amos. I would actually put him in the final 3.
It's like, for me, I'd say Amos, to me, because I observed him not only as a contestant on our season, but I was also able to play a season of Surviving Reelfoot and see him in the host position. So for me, there's 2 different sides of him. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, where you said his game was pretty good, but once he got to the final 3, he kind of wasn't really passionate about his position. Yeah. So I'm hoping that if he just stays the course and just focus on his game and maybe own up to his game, I think he'll do really well, because I really like him, not only as a player and host, but also as a person, because I even got to know him on a personal level. But for me, in terms of Survivor, I think he's kind of on the fence with me, because you don't really know how his behavior is as the game progresses. So for me, I'm going to say jury.
Okay. So with that, Amos was the 4th overall pick. The snake draft goes back to Matty, who has the 5th overall pick. Here's the cheat sheet.
Okay.
It's a little bit illuminated by the flashlight if you need it. And Matty is on the clock with the 5th overall pick.
Okay, this time I'm gonna pick a newbie this time, and for me, I'm gonna pick what's the guy from Oklahoma?
There's 2, Mason and Cheston. One is raises money for Christian missions, and the other hosts a Big Brother game.
I think I'm gonna pick Mason, because he's also a host of a internet Big Brother game. He seems to have some knowledge in how the game works, and but I've not actually seen him like play anything. So, but he seems to be like the most some with some Big Brother Survivor knowledge. So I think I'd say maybe he on the strategic side he may be kind of dangerous, but again, also his social game could be something on the other, like a yin yang thing. So so it's kind of a dark horse for me.
Yeah. So Mason and Cheston, the 2 people from Oklahoma, are the people that we know the least about. We got to among the people we know the least about. We read like a brief bio and about their experiences hosting live reality games. I just think in general, at least from the little bit that I gleaned from their bios, I think that they're relatively chill people. And I think if Amos's performance on season 4 is any indication of how a live reality host does on a show, I think he can be calm and collected and not to keep burying this kid, but not like pulling Nolan in that. I have, for something gives me confidence that both Oklahomans will be more like under the radar and let other people put a target on themselves. Whereas there's other people in the cast that I don't have that faith in. So I think that those are solid picks. They also know each other. We do know that they know each other, and so we don't know the tribe split yet. I presume they'll be on different tribes because that's how Gyro usually likes to do that kind of thing.
So.
But that's an advantage in the game, and they might be able to keep it subtle. For me, and we were talking about this in the car ride here.
Yeah,
like,
we were.
They absolutely have to lie about where they're from. Like, we're in like British Columbia. Like, if they're like, "Oh yeah, we're both from Oklahoma," it's like it's not a
very
coincidence.
obvious.
It's gonna be clear they know each other, so they better lie about that. And if they're smart enough to lie about that, I like their chances. And I don't know enough about them to differentiate them, but I think one of the Oklahomans is a good pick. I have him. I'll say he makes jury, maybe like early jury.
I'll say that one of them makes early jury, and the other is pre-merge.
That's fair. I kind of had the same feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Luke, you're on the clock. With the 6th overall pick.
My 6th overall pick is Kirk Carlson.
Ooh, damn it!
And Kirk Carlson has won multiple of these games. Kirk Carlson is a veteran to the core, and he is going to absolutely dominate this game. The question is he going to dominate the game in a way that'll offend the jury at the end? Because we know he's a very aggressive player. He'll definitely make merge, is what I'm thinking. I don't think people will have the guts, quite honestly, to target him pre-merge, because he's a very intimidating person. And I think he'll go quite far. What do you guys think?
Yeah, with Kirk, I haven't seen as much of him. I've read his bio, and I've heard that he's won multiple live reality games, which is a huge accomplishment. To just be on any of these shows and win, like a lot, you have to be lucky, but you also have to be really skilled and all that. So to win multiple, even if I don't know much about you, that's a huge thing for me. He's going to be older, which could be a hindrance. I think he's like in his 40s, so he's going to be older than most of the cast. So that could be a problem in his ability to connect with people. But his track record in Survivor gives me confidence that he'll find a way to integrate with others.
Yeah, because his track record does indicate that he's quite good at integrating with the younger people on his tribes.
Yeah, you have to assume that most of the cast he's been with are younger people.
Yeah.
So he probably has experience in that. I think the question is if he like when I saw that the interesting thing, right? When I saw that Kirk Carlson was gonna be on this cast, I was like, holy shit! Like, because I've heard about him. Are other people gonna have the same reaction? Because then that he's a target. So he has upside, like he could win this game too and go really far because of his experience.
Yeah.
But he has some downside in that maybe if other people know his reputation and the success that he's had in these games, which they very well could, I imagine a few people at least will. Could he be a huge target?
It's really the question as to whether fear is the leading factor in guiding people to not vote Kirk, or if they see him as a huge target and they've seen him play before and they're just going to take the shot. And we do have a lot of bloodthirsty people on this cast, so it's quite possible.
A lot of alpha
that they will
males.
take
A lot of alpha males.
A lot of alpha males. Not very many beta males.
No, we can't. No, we can't have any of those beta males.
No, can't have that. So, what do you guys think about his position? Start with you, Matty.
I think based on what you both have said, I think he sounds maybe an unpredictable style playing. You don't know what kind of strategic social thing he may take this time because he's not, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, maybe the way he plays maybe not be consistent with his preceding seasons, if that's accurate.
Like you don't think he'll play as well as he did in previous seasons?
I was saying maybe I think maybe some people will view him as a huge
threat.
Yes, but I think there'll be some people that want to get rid of him, but I think he'll probably get rid of them first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you put like a gun to my head, I feel like I trust his ability to like present himself to others as someone that's like on your side and make people feel comfortable. And that will, I think, diminish how much he's seen as a threat. I feel like probably later on in the draft is when I'll start saying people are pre-jury, but I think these are the early picks, and I have a hard time imagining Kirk Carlson being pre-merge. I really see him as like early to mid jury.
Early to mid? What about you, Matty? Are you thinking?
I'm thinking maybe late jury, just before the final 3. Maybe he'll get voted out like final 5, final 6.
You can definitely see that, yeah.
Yeah, because I think depending on who's left, people may see him 2 different ways. Either they take him with him and he doesn't get any votes, or they get rid of him at that stage based on like how they perceive him, and like there'll be some player like say who may think, this guy has a really good resume, we gotta get rid of this guy, or this guy, he's really intimidating. I don't. So to me, he's I would say a yin yang for him. There's, I say, a good side and a bad side, but again, it also depends on who views him in one way or another. But so for me, I'm gonna say like jury, but almost at the end.
Okay. So Luke, you have the 6th overall pick.
So
the draft snakes back, and you now have the 7th overall pick.
Yeah, I do have the 7th pick, and can barely see anything right now. However, I'm gonna go with Cole Coupland, and we know a limited amount about Cole, but from his bio, we can detect that he's a student of the game. He studies game theory, and he is a super fan. His main issue is going to be hiding that from people and trying to blend in, which is a lot easier in a season like this that's filled with super fans allure and an unbelievable amount of people that know the game inside and out. So I think on this season particularly, Cole is going to have a lot easier of a time blending in than he would in a regular season where there's only a couple super fans. What do you guys think?
I'm worried about Cole. And I'm worried about Cole because I see myself in Cole. It's kind of like Moneyball, where Billy Beane, the general manager of the Oakland A's, like really dislikes the idea. Like he dislikes people that would have drafted the younger version of him and all that. For me, when I entered Survivor, I was like really in his position. I've studied game theory as well. I'm a super fan. I'm the same kind of archetype as him. But for me, I I played a sloppy game in a lot of ways, and I think he's going to play a sloppy game in this. Like, he's going to fall into similar pitfalls that I did, in that I felt like I went through the game and I had like a checklist of like what I felt was like a good Survivor game. Like, I make people laugh. I have an alliance, like all this. I'm like, check, check, check. But I wasn't really like present in the game and really paying attention to like how everyone was really feeling about me and where everyone was really at. I mean, you see in the episodes there, I had a shocking lack of game awareness almost throughout the entire game, but certainly in the pre-merge. And I think that could be an issue that Cole runs into too. I think from his bio, he's very confident about his ability to play a great strategic and social game, but I don't know if he really understands what it means to play a great social game, because there's a lot that goes into that. Cole doesn't know what he's gotten himself into here. I think this is his first live reality game, as it was my first live reality game in Battle of BC, and I underestimated everyone, and I realized very quickly that I was playing against a lot of super fans and people that have had experience with the game, like Amos and so on. Cole is running into a buzzsaw here with the people on this cast, between Tyler and Amos and everyone. Like, they're Kirk Carlson.
He's
like,
playing with the greats, and he's a complete newbie.
Yeah,
basically.
he has the raw talent to do well. The game theory is essential to Survivor, so he could do well in that, and I could see him win, but I think he would have had a better chance. Like, if he was on Survivor Canada instead of Tyler, maybe he would have been the Tyler of this series. But he's not. His first chance is in this season, and this is a stack season. I have him as pre-jury.
Pre-jury, interesting. What about you, Matty?
Based on what Devon has said, I think Cole, because I've not got a clear vision of what type of Survivor player he is, but based on what Devon has said, I think Cole may have a deep mountain to climb with the social game, because I think he may be one of those type of players who cannot separate the game from like social, because for me, I didn't visualize myself as a strategic player. I tend to go by my social game, because I thought that's pretty much a little bit of my expertise, because I build years of experience of trying to get to know people, because I'm on the autistic spectrum, and so I try to be nice to people, like try to get to know them on a personal level, rather than always making them feel paranoid about the game.
Yeah, and that's an edge that a player like you has over a player like Cole. I was talking with Luke about the game earlier today, and we realized, like, man, like, we didn't really have like deep social connections with people. We had more superficial connections. Like, you knew basic things, but not a lot. And we, like, you had a lot of deep connections with people. Like Jessica, you were open about your life and your experiences and all that. Like, we knew,
and I think me and
Devon
lacked that a lot, where people came out of the season not knowing anything about us, except that we're like super fans.
Yeah, and then Cole is a player like me and like Luke in ways, but I think more like me. And so he could fall into that pitfall where a player like MATTY is going to do a lot better. I think Cole has some upside. I think if he makes it to the merge, things will get very interesting, because he's going to be very aware of his self-interest at every stage and do well strategically. I have faith in him in that regard. There's a lot to Survivor, and he could be in for a rough introduction to the game.
Yeah, I do agree with Devon that if he makes it to the merge, he'll be pretty well set to make it deep into the game. Because I feel at that time, at the merge, there will be bigger fish to fry. And so as long as he makes it past the pre-merge, which is probably going to be his most challenging part for sure. If he makes it past that point, I think he'll go pretty far. All right, so Matty, you have the 8th pick.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to pick a Reelfoot alumni here. I'm going to pick Taylor St. Louis. And the reason why I'm picking her is she has played Season 4 of Surviving Reelfoot. As of right now, the season has not aired yet, but she was a Reelfoot, part of the Reelfoot alumni. So I'm not sure what type of player she was, but maybe the reason why I'm picking Taylor is because I think Taylor may be one of the last couple or last few girls in the jury phase. Because looking back at our season, there was like maybe like 4 girls in our previous season, and 2 left first and second, and Natasha and Jessica made it all the way to the merge, and Jessica ended up winning.
Yeah, Natasha made it really far for sure as well. It was very polarizing. Yeah, they either did really bad or really good. Yeah.
Does she remind you of Natasha, for instance?
I'm not compared to Natasha. I think I'm just going by number statistics.
Have you met her?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
So
on Real Fit 5, yeah.
Yeah. For me, Taylor St. Louis, I'm also coming in. A lot of these players, I'm going to come in with clean hands, but I'm also trying to go by based on what Devon and Luke are saying, as well as the bio they wrote to us. So for me, Taylor St. Louis, I think she's going to be one of the last few women to go far in the jury phase, and because since she has played real foot before, I'm not sure how well she did, but I think maybe
she has experience.
Yeah, she has.
That was the thing that struck me, is that she seems to be really familiar with these live reality games and has played them a lot, and so she has an advantage over someone like Cole, who we just talked about. She kind of knows what she's getting into with an experience like this. She's friends with Sam. She has someone that she knows coming into the game, and from my understanding, she knows Amos as well, I guess, from real.
Yeah, they do.
So I think she has that. She has that like base of support. Unlike the Oklahomans, it's kind of a known base of support. I think people that are savvy enough about these live reality games in general, or in the community, so to speak, will know that they know each other, especially if they don't hide the fact that they're both from Ottawa. So that could be a problem, that could make her a target. You stole my pick. I was going to pick Taylor if you had passed on her with that pick. I do think she has a lot of upside. I think that if you're a woman, you played a lot of these games, I think you know how to use your charm to make it through. For the most part, I think most women that have played live reality games kind of know how to can become more effective at that.
As Devon would know, the pretty girl who charmed our season.
Yeah,
he charmed me for sure.
Just getting everyone to offer me lines. No. It's pretty simple. We don't know a ton about Taylor. We just know that she has experience with live reality games, that she knows people coming into it. That's both a good thing and a bad thing, and that can make her a target. But I think that base of support is good, because we do know there's only going to be 2 tribes, so she's guaranteed to either be on a tribe with Sam, or actually, no, she could be the odd one out, I guess. But
she could, yeah.
But 2 of those 3 people are going to be together on a tribe, and there's a good chance that
I do think that in that trio that she's familiar with, I think she's the least targetable by the other players. I don't think the other players will look at her and target her over the other 2.
It's like, I'm not saying that everyone's like a Nolan, but I do think that Nolan, that Nolan instinct to just like target alpha males and target aggressive guys, like I think that there's going to be a lot of that on this season, where
I do agree.
Guys targeting guys. I think her and Regan, maybe we'll get to Suzette later, but I think her and Regan have a good chance of skating on by while the guys just go to war, maybe even in the pre-merge.
I think so too. For me, I would have to say she's in my final 3 pick.
Wow,
nice.
Yeah.
All right, so I have the 9th overall pick, and with this pick, I'm gonna go with. So to make sure I have this right. Yeah, some good names off the board here. I am going to select 2 people back to back, as I have the 9th and 10th picks. I'm going to select Sam Loveridge, who is, as we mentioned, Taylor's friend. I think this discussion can go by a bit quicker because he's in the same camp as Taylor for the most part. They're friends. They're familiar with live reality games. It's a lot of the same stuff here. He participated on it's as of right now still actively going. Episode 4 just finished of the live action sequester game. So he's played with people like Holly and Chris Lecomte in a really much more complicated game with like a million twists and all that. I feel good about him as a strategic player because he's just gone through so much and has had a lot to ruminate about, like with different twists and being a part of different games. He has allies in the game. He has like a good chance of being on a tribe with either Amos or Taylor. Like I think a 2 out of 3 chance of like having one of them on his tribe. And so that's going to be a base of support right away. As long as that's not outed as a target, I think he could be in good shape. I do think that there's a bit more downside for him than Taylor. I think that he's a bit more likely to be, if they are outed as like knowing each other, I think he'd be the first target. So there's some risk in that. But I have faith in him. I think that he just comes across as intelligent. He has the sense to lie back. I don't see the Nolan instinct in him as much, but maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe we'll see. Maybe he does have a bit of Nolan. Maybe he has a bit of Nolan in him, but I do think that he I think he has upside, enough upside that I feel good about him as a pick. Where do you guys see him in pre-jury, jury, or final?
I would say right before merge, so pre-jury.
I'm going to say like right after they merge. So he'll probably be the first merge boot.
Merge boot, okay.
Yeah.
With the 10th overall pick, I select Jeff Webb. He's one of the new contestants playing. He is someone that describes himself as nerdy, funny, loves games, an aspiring professional poker player. So he's a man
relatable, I'm sure.
A man after my own heart. I think that those are good qualities to put together. I have some residual worries in the same way that I had worries about Cole, and that I think this is his first time playing. This is going to be a new experience for him. He might be overconfident like I was going into my first game. And again, as a newbie, he really is running into a buzzsaw. Very similar to Cole. But I think that, at least from his bio and like the way it comes across, I think he's more socially savvy than Cole is going to be. And I think he's going to be at least comparable and maybe even superior to Cole as a strategist because of his experience with games. So I think he's like Cole, but he has less downside. One potential downside is if he's a liability in competitions early. He doesn't come across, at least in his picture or his bio, as someone that's like super athletic. And so his tribe might perceive him as a liability in competitions. That's the way in which he could be pre-jury. And also if he overplays and pulls a Nolan, which is in play, he could pull a Nolan here and like overplay his hand and get voted out early. But I think there's a fair enough chance he doesn't. And from the qualities he's listed about himself in his profile, I think that he could go far.
Yeah, much like Devon, my only concern about Geoff is his ability to perform well in challenges. Because there's very competitive people out here in this season, and I feel like even the slightest misstep in a challenge can really affect things and shake things up. So I think if people notice that he's struggling and lagging behind, I think he's going to get cut right away. However, if he does manage to perform at least on average with the other contestants, then he will make merge for sure. But I would still have to say pre-merge based on his bio. But it is complicated because the qualities that he lists are very beneficial for a game like Survivor. And I do have high hopes for his qualities like that. However, and he's not an alpha male too.
That's the problem.
Which might actually save him on this season.
Actually, if he's on Nolan's tribe, he's safe because Nolan only goes after alpha males. Yeah, that's true.
So he's not going for him.
All right, with the 11th overall pick, I turn the floor to Matthew.
Let's see. For the 11th pick, I'm going to say Austin.
Oh, our favorite.
Yeah, like Austin. He's a character in my opinion because not only have I gotten to know him briefly in the merge, but I also got to play a version of his own Survivor game called Drunk Survivor, where he was the host. And so I got
I still can't believe that's a thing.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
So I want
to play.
Yeah, I saw like a different side of him. So I would say to me he's kind of like a little bit of a comic relief kind of guy. So I think he may bring some a little bit of entertainment when the chips are down or where people may feeling down. But I think that could also be his downfall, depending on what the tribe dynamics that he's on, because people may say, this guy's like really like into us, like he's like social, like, but what's he really thinking?
Yeah.
So it's like if he plays his cards right, I know it may sound cliche to a lot of people, but I think poker analogies do work in Survivor and talk, because even Boston Rob has talked about poker analogies on Rob Has a Podcast during the Blood versus Water season.
A lot of poker analogies from Rob in that podcast.
Yeah.
Like a lot. Devon was impressed.
Yeah.
I was all about it. You know me.
So I think to me Austin he could go he if he could just, I would say, just like if he just like be himself, like not try to be someone he's not, maybe not try to be overly funny or overly like comedic, but if he just like plays it neutral, just be a straight up guy with his tribe, I think he may do well. But I'm also on the fence with him on other ends.
Austin is a very interesting Survivor player. Obviously, he was one of the people leading the charge against me in my season, but I respected him for that. I would, with the knowledge that I had at the time in that game, I would have probably voted for Austin over any person remaining at the merge, because I thought that his decision to target me was really, really smart, and it shows that he has some strategic chops. He doesn't have like the background in game theory that Cole has, or not much of. I don't know about any particular background that would make me think he's a strategic player, but playing with him and with the decisions that he made, he definitely thinks strategically, and I think is impressive in some ways strategically. I respected him in the game. He's a great competitor. I think that he's very likely to make the merge just because he's an asset in competition and he's likable.
I agree.
The one downside is he going to pull a Nolan too? And I think that he strikes me as someone that he could pull a Nolan and overplay a hand and try to be too blindside happy and all that.
It's
and
very
this
possible.
season, he has people that will cut him down immediately for that. In the same way that, like, when I found out he was targeting me and all that, I just went for the jugular. There's going to be other people in the season like me that if they find out that Austin's throwing their name around, they're going to immediately go after Austin and try to go for the jugular as well. So Austin is in danger if he plays a similarly aggressive game as he did in Season 4. But if he has the sense to pull back and rely on his social game, and the fact he's just inherently likable, and
he is likable. Like, out of the Season 4 cast, I would pick him as one of my most favorite people to hang out with, other than you guys, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Minus Raymond. Yeah.
Well, yeah. No, he seems like a cool guy. Like, one of the things in the game, like, obviously he went after me and all that, and then lied to me a bunch in Ponderosa. But, I mean, he seems like a cool guy.
I'm still playing the game, bro.
I'm still playing the game, bro. Yeah, exactly. Fuck. But, you know, he seems like a cool person outside the game and all that. I haven't had the chance to hang out with him because I've been on the East Coast most of the time, but, like, if it wasn't, you know, I don't have any bad personal feelings towards him from what happened in the game. I think in fact, I have respect for it because it made sense for him from his perspective to target me in the way he did. So I think he has upside. I think that it's just hard to imagine him being pre-jury, and I think we have too many people making the jury or making the merge and all that. But it's hard. I just can't imagine Austin being such a person because he's just such an asset in competitions. It's possible, but I just think he's actually a pretty likely merge boot. And like an early merge, but I think he has potential. He has winner upside and all that. Like Austin Breer could be the winner of Season 5.
Oh, very possibly. If he doesn't get voted out the merge, I would put him as either finals or very late jury.
Okay. Cool.
It's really up to him as to whether he has that ability to know that he needs to tone it down and to basically provide entertainment while all the other players cut themselves.
Yeah, he has an opportunity. This is his second chance. He has no excuse if he doesn't pull that off because he can learn from his mistakes here and like really he's had time. He definitely has reflected on his last game.
And we've seen him strategizing. He's quite a brilliant player.
I think
he's a little too trigger happy, and if he can keep his hands off the trigger, I think he'll do real well.
Yeah. Unlike your first overall pick, Luke, I don't think.
I have great confidence in him.
Dude, Luke picked Nolan first overall. Like, what the hell? The whole legitimacy of this just went out the window.
All right.
12th overall pick from Luke.
12th overall.
Oh, does that mean I get last? Oh, God damn it.
Yeah, that's the way it goes.
Luke gets 13, you get 14, I get last. Damn it. Actually, I should get 16 too. I think that's how it works. I think I should get 16. I should get like a 6th person on my team because I'm so disadvantaged.
I'm going to go with Hunter Snyder. And Hunter Snyder is an interesting one for me because I've watched Survivor Washington since the very start. And I like to think that I know a lot about him, but of course I've never met him in person. So I've only got to see what I saw on his YouTube channel. However, seeing that, I do have great faith in him to at least have the ability to go very deep in the game. It all depends on how he's going to treat his other tribe mates. Because you can see him on the season where he hosts Survivor Washington. Sometimes he's a little edgy. Let's put it that way. And he kind of barks back at the contestants. And if he does that when he's actually a contestant and not a host, because let's be real, a host can get away with quite a lot.
Yeah.
But if he's a contestant and he barks off at some other contestant in his tribe, I think he's going to be in a lot of trouble. Mm-hmm. But if he manages to play it cool and to be respectful to his tribe mates, he will at least make merge, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
Because I've also watched his previous Survivor Washington Ording season, and I tend to agree with what you're saying. I think my biggest worry is is he willing to separate his hosting duties as a contestant? Because while I was watching him, I think there was one person who left a comment who was like accusing Hunter, like, stop trying to be like Jeff when you host. And that was like one comment I saw maybe in the second episode.
Yeah, I saw that comment too.
Mm-hmm. Did Hunter like lash out at him or something in the comments?
It was like just someone was kind of making a constructive criticism, like, stop trying to be like Jeff, bros, just be yourself.
Hunter does seem like the person that would lash out at that person on the comment section, which worries me a bit because I don't want him to do that in game. Otherwise, he's going to be in trouble.
And I've even sent in applications to compete on a future season of Survivor Washington, but I haven't heard anything back yet.
I have not watched Survivor Washington. I saw the little bit of the beginning. It's just hard for me to get into certain seasons and all that. Like, I pretty much just watched like Survivor Maryland and this, and then I like occasionally branched out, but it's like more selective. But I'm sure that I'd enjoy it if I watched it. It's like the thing I love to be on. So that's like the contrast of this is that I want to say how I feel, but I also like would want to get cast on that show someday. So I don't necessarily want to compromise that. But I'm just gonna speak my truth here. I think he's pre-jury from what I see. I think we haven't said that enough people are pre-jury yet, and I think he described himself in his profile as a control freak. I think that's what he said. You guys have described him as like sometimes like lashing out at players and not. I don't think he's going to be like. I think there's a difference between him and like Amos, right?
I don't think just Amos has that control.
Yes,
he's able to control the temptation to lash out at people, whereas Hunter will have a more difficult time with that.
Yeah, and so I don't think that just because you're a host of a live reality game, which there are a lot in this cast of people that are like that, just because you're the host of a live reality game doesn't mean you're going to be as good as Amos is at the game. It's just not going to happen. Amos is really good at the game, and it's not like something that you're just automatically bestowed to you if you host a game. Like, you could host and be bad, and I think Hunter might have a tough time this season.
That's the difference because sorry to interrupt, but Amos has played before and Hunter has not.
Hunter hasn't?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah, I didn't.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's played before, and
Yeah.
so he's not used to being a contestant, whereas Amos is, and that's why I would pick Amos over Hunter any day.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking of a hypothetical situation, like if Amos and Hunter were on the same tribe to start with, I would think maybe their personalities could clash, and maybe we could get another like Chris Dominic thing.
Oh, man.
As like hosts,
Who gets to be the Chris Noble in that?
seasons.
Yeah, and as well as their personalities on how they are as contestants, because Amos seems more cool, calm, and collective based on what I have seen while we were playing. But as Hunter, he, based on what I've saw from his hosting duties, he seems more vocal, but he could use it in the wrong way.
And I'll add
Fire
too.
nice.
There's so many super fans and people that are at least intellectually savvy about Survivor. That like Hunter is yet another person on the season that could win and could make it really far in the game. I'm not saying he doesn't have upside, but this is a stacked cast of people that have a ton of experience with Survivor, or really relevant skills, and so he has a lot to prove, and he might succeed in proving himself on this season. But right now, he has a lot to prove, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So right now, I have to have him as pre-jury, but I hope he does well. And I think he, just by being the host, by loving the show so much, he has the raw materials to potentially do well.
I think for me, I'm gonna maybe do a 180 and say I'm gonna say jury, but I think he'll probably be one of the like first 2 or 3 to get voted out during the merge
Yeah,
phase.
early jurors.
Yeah,
early
kind of like a Chris in Ghost Island. Not in terms of like
Hopefully not the rapping.
like,
Yeah.
well, we haven't seen him.
I don't know.
rap.
I enjoyed that rapping. Like
He's
a
like-
lot of people shade on that rap. However, I really enjoyed it. That's one of my favorite Ponderosa videos. I'm not even kidding. Okay. My next pick,
His final pick.
my final pick, actually, you're very right, will actually be Suzette from
Whoa!
Big Brother Canada.
She wasn't 16. Oh my, what?
Whoa. Have some respect for
First
my
Nolan, now
13th
this.
pick. Oh, yeah.
Someone check Luke's blood alcohol level.
It's 0.
I think he's sober.
I am sober, trust me. Although it does take a lot to get me drunk. FYI. The reason I'm picking Suzette as my 13th pick is because I feel like she's just not that much of a target as all these other people like Kirk and Tyler and all these other greats. She's new to Survivor. She's played Big Brother, of course, for a brief period, mind you. However, I do think that people won't see her as a threat right away. Her only issue is controlling her personality. I think me and Suzette would get along quite well. However, I think most people on average would be a little annoyed with her. And I'm just personally more tolerant towards her type of personality. So it really depends if people's personalities match up with hers. If they can get over her personality, it is abrasive at times, then I think she will go very deep in the game. And I know Devon's looking at me right now like I'm completely trashed.
That's fair. That's fair. It's a valid opinion. You know, Nolan #1, Suzette on your team. Cool.
Yeah.
Matty going.
It's like I don't normally watch a Big Brother. I think the Big Brother season that I've watched, maybe like not as a whole season, but more invested in was Big Brother 8 with Evil Dick and Danielle in the season, and because I'm not too familiar with like some of the Big Brother stuff because I don't really watch it, so I didn't really get to see how she plays.
We didn't get a bio of her either. We just Big Brother Canada alumni. And all that.
That's all we got. So you basically had to watch her season to know.
Like, I think, did you say something about she has like a big personality or something?
She does a very I wouldn't say bubbly personality.
No,
it's
I would not
it's
say
out
bubbly.
there.
It's
It's
I think
it's overwhelming at times.
I just think if you, I'm not speaking for some people, but I'm just thinking like overall, like if someone who has a big personality, I think their main obstacles is to try to like tone it down, like try to just if you're on a game of Survivor, try to go into the mentality of just playing the game, not just going there for airtime.
I think that's gonna be a problem for Suzette, and it's also gonna be a problem. She's gonna fail in that because Suzette is gonna be the first person voted out of this game. That I'm gonna put that on the record.
You think so?
That's my hot take, and it's actually not that hot of a take. So I want to preface this by saying I think it's really cool that Jara got a Big Brother Canada alum to play this season. I think that she's gonna. This is gonna be a really. I think we've put in a lot of work to make this a well-designed game with good challenges and good game design, along with Jara, who's obviously has executive control over it. She's gonna have a great time doing this. I'm glad that she's doing it. It's a good experience, and I'm glad for Jara to land the Big Brother Canada alum. I think he was really happy that he's gonna have that, and we are too. I think from a personality perspective, she's gonna be an interesting contrast to the rest of the cast. But
She's very different from the other casts.
It's gonna be a nice personality contrast. It's something that's well needed. That being said, personally, and I do think she's a good I'm happy she's on this season, even though I would have to say throughout Big Brother and Survivor, I think she's probably my least favorite contestant of all time. It's just she's the kind of person that I just don't on a personal level. I don't tend to get along with that well. But I also think being objective in the game, I just don't think she's going to do well in the physical competitions. She's going to be kind of a liability in the pre-jury, and I also just think that she's not going to do well in terms of making social bonds. I can see her being overly paranoid. I just think she has like every negative checkbox like ticked in terms of someone. Like I'd actually be beyond shocked if she made the merge. Like that seems almost impossible to me, and she has a 0% chance of winning the game. But
0% chance. You sound like a Spencer there.
Spencer didn't win either.
That's true.
He's like, Cass?
Yeah,
0% chance.
Yeah, not to sound too much like Spencer, but Suzette, 0%. Yeah, I don't even want to do the Spencer impression, but you get the point. Yeah, Suzette has a 0% chance of winning a game. I love that she's on. I personally dislike her, but I'm happy to see her here to interact with people if you can make sense of those seeming contradictions.
I think she's a great addition to the cast. Well, let's leave it at that.
Very poor draft pick, though. Very poor draft pick.
I think I'm doing all right. Do you think that if Suzette makes merge, which you think is nearly impossible, do you think she could go all the way to the end as maybe a goat?
If Suzette makes the merge, I will run across this campsite naked.
Okay.
It's like, we got that on film and audio.
Yeah. While, yeah.
I still have 3 hours of battery life. So.
Anyway, so I think Suzette. Matty, where do you have her as like pre-jury?
Well, I don't really have a clear sense of like what type of player she is. I just am going by what you two have said.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna think maybe then again I'm gonna say you may not like it.
Oh no.
Like I'm not gonna.
How big is this jury, Matty?
I'm kidding. It's like I'm gonna probably say like really late pre-jury.
Okay.
Because like just like maybe like let's say there was like 2 tribal councils left for the merge. I think she'd be the first. Then there'll be one more. Then they'll merge. Because,
yeah. That's like I think that's her peak. I think that's her like best case scenario. I mean, I think that is like technically possible. Although even that's it's hard to imagine.
Really. I think her best case scenario is actually making Final 3 as a GOAT.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's actually a fair point that if she does make jury at that point, but like, she'd be like an Abby Maria. It's like you want to bring her, but you just can't even tolerate like being with her on the camp. And she also might quit. Like, she also straight up might quit. This is the first time we might have like a medevac, well, not medevac, but like a straight up quit.
I mean, this isn't Big Brother.
Yeah, that's what's gonna happen.
We
probably spent all of us too much time talking about Suzette. I just want to wrap it up by saying, if Suzette, if you're listening to this, I am actually legitimately glad that you did this. And the one last thing I thought of, it just came to me now, is that for the show in general, like it probably is like amazing if she does win, like, or at least it would actually be like really good for the series, I guess. But it'd
be one for the history books.
Jar, it's not happening. It's not happening.
Oh, come on, Dev.
All right, Matty.
So I got the 14th pick.
Yeah.
Okay, for my 14th pick.
Your final
My
pick.
final one. I'm gonna say Trevor LeBlanc. Because I read his bio. He was. I would describe him as an underdog player. Because we never really like seen him like play like a survivor base show. So
it seems like it's his first time from the bio. He didn't reference any previous experience on these shows. I think he's a fan, but my sense is that he doesn't have too much experience on the show. To recap his bio a little bit, I just made some like brief notes on there. I think it's been a while since you guys read the bios. I think he recently had like a long-term relationship. He's gay and he had a long-term relationship that recently ended when he found out that his partner was cheating on him, and so he's kind of like getting his groove. If in the way in his bio he described himself as kind of like getting his groove back in life, so to speak, and trying new things.
That might be an issue, like in the Survivor game.
I think he also expressed that he wasn't very confident in himself in like physical competitions and all that. I think that part of he said he has some insecurities with being overweight and whatnot.
That might be a problem for challenges early on.
Yeah, I think that's straightforward. That could be an obstacle for him, especially compared to other people who, when you have experience, like there are people that have experience in Survivor are also generally trying to be fit to play Survivor.
And
so,
are generally
Mhm.
more familiar with the challenges, which in turn usually results with being better in them.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think
that's fair.
Trevor knows what to expect.
Yeah, and I think also like it depends on what stage that he's in. If this was still like really really raw for him, it could be something that prevents him from relating as well to other people. But then again, it could help him relate if he's
Mhm.
open about it. Like that could be something where like if someone's that open about the fact that of the things they're going through and all that, that brings people closer. I mean, that was the thing for you, man.
Mhm,
You were
yeah.
very open about the struggles that you've gone through and all that. And that was something that really brought people to like a magnet, all that, because
Yeah.
you were just so authentic. So if he has that and he was like that in his bio,
Mhm.
this could be a really good dark horse pick by you, Matty.
Yeah.
Matty V2.
Mhm.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Maybe. I would have to say he's pre-jury, mainly because I have too many. I think I have too many people on the jury and in the final.
I think I do too.
It makes sense. It's probably where he's gonna fall. But I think that this is a really cool thing for him to do. A really cool kind of project to take on. This whole game is going to be, I think, the best Survivor Canada, Survivor BC, Survivor Gyra season yet.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I hope he does well.
I do too.
But my gut says it's going to be pre-jury.
I'll have to
Yes.
agree with Devon on this one. My gut's telling me that he'll be pre-jury, solely based on the challenge aspect. But if he somehow manages to find somebody like, a Luke or a Devon, I think he'll go quite far.
Oh man, find some like more pink boys and like the. I'm just, the one thing is though, I don't necessarily see the upside. Like, I don't see any particular reason why he's going to beat the other people in this game. I don't see like where he's going to like surpass the other people in terms of competition, strategically in competitions, or even socially.
He'll surpass people on an emotional level.
You're right.
And the ability
He
to
could,
connect with
Maybe.
the other castaways.
That could be his upside, yeah.
Yeah.
And someone that could win the game. That is a good winner story, right?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
could be
it
like
is.
he could be like an underdog that turns into a hero.
No, so I have the last two picks, and these two people are not people that I ever thought would fall to 15 and 16. I think I'm getting steals with both these people. One is Cheston, the other Oklahoman. I don't see any reason why he should be any higher or lower than the other Oklahoman, who was picked very early in the draft by Matty. So I think I'm getting him at a steal in the final two picks. There's not much else to say about him. I think that he's the one that organizes Survivor games and donates the proceeds to like Christian missions to spread the word about Jesus and all that. There's just the obvious things that maybe if he's like too zealously Christian, that could be something that turns people off. But I mean, I don't have any basis for like saying that he would be necessarily. He seems like cool, and if he's this is something where if he has hosted Survivor games, I think he'll have the sense not to do that, and he could just be a general positive presence. Like people like that are generally pleasant to be around, So I think that he has a lot of upside, especially if he keeps his friendship or the bond going into the game with the other Oklahoman, Mason. If they can keep that under wraps, like that's a very, very deadly alliance. Like these pregame like partnerships are so deadly if no one knows about them, and it's tough because they eventually get figured out most of the time.
Yeah.
But if like a relationship like that can persist through the game without people knowing, it can be lethal. They always seem to come out like these relationships between people, and I imagine this one will too. But if it doesn't, we'll see. And then lastly, Jack Wire, the host of the other, I'm blanking on the name of the other show. I know Survivor Washington, but there's the other one the other Survivor takes place in Washington State. I think that he's going to do great. I don't think he has any of the downside that Hunter Snyder does. He's describing himself as athletic, so I think that he'll, should be an asset in competitions. I don't really see the downside. He could very well be around as good as Amos in terms of his ease with people. So I'm totally high on him. I really don't see how these people have fallen to 15 and 16. For the record, I think that the 15 and 16, I would have had that if I had just picked 1 through 16 myself. 15 would have been Nolan and 16 would have been Suzette.
Oh, no faith. No faith at all.
Yeah,
we'll show them.
I just have no faith in the self-proclaimed alpha male, unfortunately. But so I think I've gotten steals at 15 and 16. I think my team's going to kick ass. And I think that Luke's going to be filled with regret at the end of this game that he squandered the first overall pick as he did.
So you
any
think
other
I'm
thoughts,
going to owe
guys?
you $5, basically.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be a transaction of money that occurs, and it's going to make me richer by $10 after this season.
We'll see.
Anyways, this has been kind of long-winded, but hopefully entertaining and edutaining.
That's a word.
It's like a
It's
poor
edutaining. It's a
thought-provoking.
portmanteau of educational and entertaining. It's been edutaining. Rundown of the contestants on Survivor Canada, Survivor Gyra, season 5. This is going to be a really good season. There's so many legitimately great players that are going to be playing against each other. I'll be on the record with my last hot take of this, that this is going to be the most competitive, cutthroat, just total bloodbath of a Survivor season ever. And as production people, I think I speak for all of us when I say that we're just excited to watch this unfold as fans.
I'm excited to be part of this. Like Devin said, it's going to be the most cutthroat season we've had, and ultimately probably the best season.
Yeah.
No offense to our season.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right, that's it.
All right.
Wherever you are in this world, have a wonderful evening.
Pink boys out.
It's like, in case we don't see you, good
Love you,
afternoon, good evening,
Raymond.
and good night.
Fuck you, Raymond.
Famous last words. All right. Here we are, signing off.